Sam Wilson, the Falcon, fears the responsibility of Captain America's legacy. Let's see what we can learn from him. Welcome to Inner Warrior, where we learn from our modern superhero myths to unleash the inner warrior in you and help you tell a better life story. At the end of Avengers Endgame, Captain America, Steve Rogers, handed his shield over to Sam, passing his mantle over to him. When Steve asked Sam, "How does it feel?" after Sam picked up his shield, Sam responded, "Like it's someone else's." But Steve explained, "It isn't." Sam then tells Steve, "I'll do my best," and Steve responds, "That's why it's yours." Cap had the faith in Sam that Sam didn't have in himself. To Sam, it didn't feel like the mantle was his. Sam was dealing with imposter syndrome. According to a research study in the journal General Internal Medicine titled Prevalence, Predictors, and Treatment of Imposter Syndrome, Systematic Review, imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon, perceived fraudulence, or imposter experience, describes high-achieving individuals who, despite their objective successes, fail to internalize their accomplishments and have persistent self-doubt and fear of being exposed as a fraud or imposter. The study goes on to explain that because imposter syndrome is not an officially recognized clinical diagnosis, clinicians lack evidence on the prevalence and best practices for diagnosing and treating imposter syndrome. So Sam was afraid that if he took on the mantle, he wouldn't live up to what he perceived was the standard Steve Rogers set. "I'll do my best," he states. But Sam used avoidance to prevent himself from failing as the new Captain America. He gives the shield to the government, thinking he can retire the legacy instead of taking it up. But we all know how that went. By giving up the responsibility, all he did was give it to someone else. If you feel like an imposter, if you have self-doubt, if you give up responsibility, then you can be sure someone or something else will try and fill that vacuum. If you are too afraid of taking on more responsibility at work, you may get passed up for that leadership position, and that new leader may make your life hell. If you don't want to step out of your comfort zone, you may not start your passion project, and someone else will come out with an idea similar to yours, but without the heart you would have put into it. If you don't step up for your family, you may find, like Sam did, your family struggling to make ends meet. So, how do you fight imposter syndrome, take responsibility, and face your fear? Well, first, realize imposter syndrome is just the voice of your inner critic. It's a defense mechanism that is too sensitive. You may feel it at various times of your life, and it will probably never fully go away. We won't necessarily fight imposter syndrome, but we'll replace it. Instead of focusing on the imagined future of failure, replace it with visualizations of your success. Let's look at some of the steps to replace imposter syndrome. Physically make a list of emotions you're feeling in terms of being an imposter, as naming emotions lessen their impact. Create a list of skills or habits you can work on to improve your readiness for the responsibility. Write a list of past accomplishments that prove you're already capable of the responsibility. Come up with a scene of success in your head to play over and over again, boosting your confidence. And find a mentor to support you. If you could follow these steps, you could take on that mantle you were given. Learn from Falcon, stop avoiding, and accept your responsibility. Have you ever faced imposter syndrome? How did you replace it? Are there any responsibilities you're avoiding? Any passion projects? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see how Batman tells us that we should get a mentor, click here.